Scent of Apples by Bienvenido in Santos.
When I arrived in Kalamazoo, it was October, and the war was still on. Gold and silver stars hung on pennants above silent windows of white and brick-red cottages. In a backyard, an old man burned leaves and twigs, while a gray-haired woman sat on the porch, her red hands quiet on her lap, watching the smoke rising above the elms. Both of them thinking of the same thought, perhaps, about a tall, grinning boy with blue eyes and flying hair who went out to war. Where could he be now this month? When leaves were turning into gold, the fragrance of gathered apples was in the wind. It was a cold night when I left my room at the hotel for a usual speaking engagement. A heavy wind coming up from Lake Michigan was icy on the face. It felt like winter straying early in the northern woodlands. Under the lampposts, the leaves shone like bronze, and they rolled on the pavements like the ghost feet of 1,000 autumns long dead, long before the boys left for faraway lands without great icy winds and promise of winter early in the air. Lands without apple trees, the singing and the gold. It was the same night I met Celestino Fabia.
Just a Filipino farmer,
As he called himself, who had a farm about 30 miles east of Kalamazoo. You came all that way on a night like this just to hear me talk? I asked.
I've seen no Filipino for so many years now.
He answered quickly.
So when I saw your name in the papers where it says you come from the islands and that you're going to talk, I come right away.
Earlier that night, I had addressed a college crowd, mostly women. It appeared that they wanted me to talk about my country. They wanted me to tell them things about it because my country had become a lost country. Everywhere in the land the enemy stalked. Over it, a great silence hung, and their boys were there, unheard from, or they were on their way to some little-known island on the Pacific. Young boys all, hardly men, thinking of harvest moons and smell of forest fire. It was not hard talking about our own people. I knew them well and I loved them, and they seemed so far away during those terrible years that I must have spoken of them with a little fervor, a little nostalgia. In the open forum that followed, the audience wanted to know whether there was much difference between our women and the American women. I wasn't sure how to answer. It was hard to compare lives so different, but before I could respond, a voice rose from the back of the room. A man stood up. He looked old, slight, and very brown. He said,
I'm a Filipino farmer. I left the Philippines more than 20 years ago. I want to know, are our Filipino women still the same as they were then?
The audience was silent. I considered my answer carefully. I didn't want to lie, but I also didn't want to disappoint him. Finally, I said, First, tell me what our women were like 20 years ago. He smiled and said,
They were nice, modest, wore their hair long and didn't go for monkey business. They were proper, God-fearing, faithful.
Then, as if remembering something, he added,
It's the men who I'm very happy, sir,
he said, and I could tell it comforted him deeply. After the meeting, he introduced himself as Celestino Fabia and invited me to his farm the next day.
You will make my wife very happy,
he said with a shy smile. The next afternoon, Fabia arrived in his old car, faded black and tired from years of use. He seemed lighter now, grinning as he drove.
Ruth can't believe it,
He said,
I says to her, I'm bringing you a first-class Filipino, and she says,
Go away. Quit kidding. There's no such thing as first-class Filipino.
But Roger, that's my boy. He believed me immediately.
What's he like, Daddy?
He asks. You will see, I says. He's first class.
Like you, Daddy?
No, I laugh at him. Your daddy ain't first class.
Oh, but you are, Daddy.
So you can see what a nice...
The trip seemed interminable. We passed through narrow lanes and disappeared into thickets and came out on barren land overgrown with weeds in places. All around were dead leaves and dry earth. In the distance were apple trees. Aren't those apple trees? I asked, wanting to be sure.
Yes, those are apple trees.
He replied.
Do you like apples? I got lots of them. I got an apple orchard, I'll show you.
All the beauty of the afternoon seemed in the distance, on the hills, in the dull soft sky. Those trees are beautiful on the hills, I said.
Autumn's a lovely season. The trees are getting ready to die and they show their colors proud-like.
No such thing in our own country, I said. The road was rough, and Fabia's words turned to memories of his youth in the Philippines. He described his hometown.
In this old Visayan town, the streets are narrow, dirty, and covered in corral shells. You couldn't have missed our house. It was the biggest in town, one of the oldest. We were a big family. The house stood right on the edge of the street, and there was the smell of chickens roosting on the low-topped walls. I remember the sound they made.
Quietly now, as though
Born in that house. Grew up there, a pampered brat. I broke my family's hearts, you know.
His voice faltered as he recalled the day his father had driven him out.
I was mean, and one day I saw my mother cry wordlessly as my father cursed me and threw me out. And my brothers and sisters took up my father's hate for me and multiplied it numberless times in their own broken hearts. I was no good.
There was a pause, then Fabia added almost softly.
But sometimes I miss that house. I miss my brothers and sisters. I even miss my father's hands.
The car creaked along a narrow path, and we arrived at a ramshackle house.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Ruth greeted us with a shy smile, her rough hands betraying years of hard work. Roger, though, was a handsome boy, his eyes bright and innocent. Inside, the smell of apples filled the air. Ruth served fried chicken, rice, and green peas and corn on the ear. Even as we ate, Ruth kept standing and going to the kitchen for more food. Roger ate like a little gentleman.
Isn't he nice looking?
His father asked. You are a handsome boy, Roger, I said. The boy smiled at me.
You look like Daddy.
I noticed an old yellowed photograph leaning against a dresser, a woman in Filipino dress, her face a blur now, though it hadn't always been. Fabia quickly explained.
I picked that picture many years ago in a room on LaSalle Street in Chicago. I have often wondered who she was. The face wasn't a blur in the beginning? No, it was a young face and good.
Ruth came with a plate full of apples, I cried, picking out a ripe one. I've been thinking where all the scent of apples came from. The room is full of it.
I'll show you,
said Fabia. He showed me a back room, not very big. It was half full of apples.
Every day,
he explained.
I take some of them to town to sell to the groceries. Prices have been low. I've been losing on the trips.
These apples will spoil, I said.
We'll feed them to the pigs.
Then he showed me around the farm. It was twilight now, and the apple trees stood bare against a glowing western sky. In apple blossom time, it must be lovely here, I thought. But what about winter time? Fabia told me a story from years ago.
I had appendicitis during the worst winter. Ruth, she shoveled the snow from the front door and carried me through the snow, massaging my arms and legs to keep me warm, as she herself nearly froze to death. Go back to the house, Ruth. You'll freeze to death.
But Ruth clung to him wordlessly. Her tears rolled down her cheeks.
I won't leave you. I won't leave,
she repeated.
Finally, the U.S. mail car arrived. The mailman, who knew them well, helped them board the car, and, without stopping on his usual route, took the sick man and his wife direct to the nearest hospital. Ruth stayed in the hospital with Fabia. She slept in a corridor outside the patient's ward, and in the daytime helped in scrubbing the floor and washing the dishes and cleaning the men's things. They didn't have enough money, and Ruth was willing to work like a slave.
From inside the room of the shanty, a low light flickered. I had a last glimpse of the apple trees in the orchard under the darkened sky as Fabia backed up the car, and soon we were on our way back to town. But when finally we came to the hotel and I got down, Fabia said,
Well, I guess I won't be seeing you again.
His face shadowed in the dark. As I reached the lobby, I turned to him. Tell Ruth and Roger I love them.
Look, I said, not knowing why I said it. One of these days, very soon, I hope, I'll be going home. I could go to your town.
No,
he said softly, sounding very much defeated but brave.
Thanks a lot. But you see, nobody would remember me now.
Then he started the car, and as it moved away, he waved his hand. Goodbye, I said, waving back into the darkness, and suddenly the night was cold like winter, straying early in these northern woodlands. I hurried inside. There was a train the next morning that left for Muncie, Indiana, at 8:15. Scent of Apples by Bienvenido in Santos.